Simplicity is divinity. If you can't explain it to a child, then you really don't understand it, right? This is quite true, actually. One of the most simple ways to, and I've said this before countless times, those who want and seek power should never be given it, and this, of course, is 90% of the reason why politicians are, of course, all such evil scum. There's two centers. There's a false center and there's a true center, and this is foundational to all monistic metaphysics, and I'm going to sum it up in a way that I've never seen anybody else or heard anybody else in written form or otherwise talk about, and I'm trying to keep it really, really simple and really short. Somebody with wisdom will actually seek the center, and that, of course, would be the unmanifest. The ancient Indians, of course, have said either aham brahmasmi, thou art Brahman, meaning the absolute, or tattvam asi, that thou art. In other words, you are that ultimately, the ontological self, not the existential self of forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses. You are that, meaning the absolute. And that, of course, is the center, and those people that seek the center, and just like the middle of a clock, I don't know if you, well, everybody knows what a clock's like, you know. You have the second hand, and we have the hour hand, and right at the center of the clock there, right at the axle pin, there would be no time, because time doesn't exist. It exists conventionally, but it doesn't exist ultimately. So right there at the axle pin, where the hour hand and the second hand are attached, there is, of course, no time, and I speak in the absolute sense. People that seek the center, i.e. the absolute, rather than perpetual becoming. This is wisdom, and this is true, and this is where people get caught up in this notion of egotism. Egotism is a 16th century invention. There is no ideation of egotism in ancient Pali or Greek, or even ancient Sanskrit, not in the teachings of Advaita Vedanta of Sri Sankaracharya found within Upadisa Sahasrara, or the Vivachuddha Muni. People will actually point to specific ancient doctrinal passages talking about ahamsami, and this is unfortunately translated as egotism, but it actually doesn't mean egotism. It's identification with the false self, i.e. the self in the mirror. Anyway, a person who seeks the true center via wisdom, you know, is seeking for the absolute. I got a little diagram here. Let's show you the absolute here, the center, or the unbecome, as the ancient doctrine actually describes, or the uncreate. This, of course, would be the nexus point, or the plane of inertia, if you will. Of course, everything out here is becoming. It's kind of like a clock, you know, the center axle pin, where there is no time. Those with wisdom actually seek the true center. These would be, of course, existential entities out here. On also, too, the clock is perfect as a wheel. By the way, the mistranslation from the ancient Pali, they talk about Gautama being the wheel turner. That's a mistranslation from the ancient Pali. What it actually says, it says, Dhammakakwa says, is that which turns the wheel. Is that which turns the wheel is in reference to the Navi, or the axle point, the uncreate, the unmanifest, i.e. Brahman, i.e. Tat, and of course the term Tathagata, or sometimes pronounced Tathagata. Agata is past tense, meaning having arrived at. Gata, going to. Agata means you've already arrived at. Tathagata means you have arrived at Tat, or to the absolute. In other words, you have actually retroducted or actually sought the center via wisdom. And this is, of course, the center of an evil person. This, of course, would be an empirical entity. A person that actually seeks power or believes in power, they actually are engaging in trying to make themselves a center. Anybody, and if you think about this, no one's ever talked about, like, evil people, of course, throughout history have tried to build power around themselves. Yes? This is, we want to talk about metaphysical egotism. Egotism, of course, like I said, didn't exist in ancient monistic metaphysics, either the Greeks or the Indians. If you think it did, you actually don't know what egotism is relative to, for example, ahamsami. But evil people always try to build power around themselves. They want people to point towards them, look towards me, I am in control of you. Nobody in this life is in control of themselves. In other words, all we're guaranteed in life is death, taxes, and suffering. So people that actually try to make a center out of themselves, this is what, like I said, an evil person does. They try to make themselves a center or a whirlpool or a nexus that other entities will seek to them or look to. The kings, princesses, kings, 1940s Germany, Stalin, all forms of evil or people that actually seek power are those that have rejected the true center, or the absolute, whether you want to call it the agathon, you want to call it tat, you want to call it Brahman, the unbecome, the uncreate. I don't care what you call it, but this power lust, it's this ideation by an evil entity who, of course, has no control over themselves, and of course is just passing through a diopter of time and space for a very, very minuscule moment in a blink of an eye of the cosmos, trying to make themselves a center. That form of evil ideation, of course, I reject the term egotism, because egotism, like I said, is a 16th century creation. It doesn't exist in ancient metaphysics. That is what evil is. People that seek power, they are selfish in the absolutist sense. They want people to turn towards them. They see themselves as a type of absolute in whatever sort of conscious or subconscious manner. Anybody that's ever sought power. And this is the reason why I've actually said countless thousands of times that the cosmos will only suffer that sort of error for a very, very, very short period of time. Anybody that tries to make themselves a center rather than seeking after the true center, that wheel will be thrown. That false, short, super brief temporal window. This is why all people that, and I've seen so many evil politicians, of course politicians have been evil since the beginning of time, kings, so on and so forth. People that want others to turn towards them. True wisdom is someone that has a close proximity or is on the correct path to the center, and they tell other people not to follow them or make themselves a center. Like, this is the way, and I'm not going to use the word I was about to use because that is in reference to religion rather than metaphysics. To seek the absolute, to turn away from, the sands of time and becoming, or as in the ancient Pali it said, bhava nubhava, means becoming and re-becoming over and over again. We're perpetually trapped on the outside periphery of the clock of time, i.e. samsara. Samsara means to go round and round and round. So we get the idea of sansarati, to be with perpetual becoming. This is the reason why nobody knows what the actual definition of nirvana is. I mean, the word in Pali is nibbana, or the word in Sanskrit is nirvana. The word comes from nirvriti, or nisbandhu. You say from bondage, but it means the cessation or the ending, nirvriti, of becoming. Vriti, meaning turning or perturbations. The ending of turning or perturbations is just like the turning of the clocks of the hand on the wheel of becoming, which of course I don't think everybody's heard of wheel of becoming, is to seek the center, is to seek the uncreate. But this is what all evil is. This notion that I am the center. Anybody that loves power or seeks power, desires for power, means that they create this extremely short temporal period where by order and by heavy fist and by great evils and by great suffering and persecution of others, that they create themselves as a false center. And it never lasts, and Mother Nature will never, ever, ever suffer it, except for a very, 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 very brief period of time. It might seem like an eternity to those who suffer under that form of tyranny, but Mother Nature never suffers it for very long. Mother Nature always completely destroys people like this. People that try to create a whirlpool out of themselves where they become the vortex center, that try to suck other people into their desire for power over others. Anybody that seeks power has no control over themselves. And by themselves, I don't mean that they can't seek wisdom. They have no control over the existential persona. What they're creating a center out of is a pile of shit and garbage, i.e. the existential self. Yeah, nobody has control over themselves as meant the existential self. Not saying people can't have self-control, meaning in a true metaphysical sense, true self-control is of course to turn away from phenomena and sansarati or nisbandhu towards the center. This is wisdom, to actually fall into the center. Because here is tattvamasi, that thou art, or as in the ancient Pali, aham brahmasmi, meaning thou art the absolute, or I am, meaning transcendent I am, to fall into the absolute. Yeah, but this is always what evil people do. Evil people, or people that love power or seek power and try to maintain power, are exactly like this. They deny this center, and they try to make a center out of themselves. And Mother Nature always destroys these people. Always, without fail, and this is a universal precept that is undeniable, Mother Nature always destroys these people. Why seek the true center? The evil people, or those who like power, try to be the center, but they are never a center, and they make a center out of a pile of bones and skin and crap and flesh and blood, and those people are demonic by definition, the true metaphysical definition of demonic. They are ignorant or nescient. Anyway, I think I stated that in simple. What could be more simpler than a more simpler? Did I say simpler? More simple than a circle with a dot in the center. Also representative of the wheel of becoming. Also representative of the clock of time. Time doesn't exist ultimately. Time is only a measure of magnitudes. It only exists conventionally, not ultimately. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Lux Veritas. I hope you like these videos. If you do, click the link below and let me know how I can help you or any questions on anything. Anything is greatly appreciated, or nothing at all. I like being helpful. So, увидимся, as they say in Russia. Увидимся, до свидания. Муж и жена точно сказали. Точно.